Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call.
Welcome back to Bitch Call Your Sponsor. I'm Misty.
Hi, Misty.
And you are?
I'm Sam.
Hello, Sam.
Hello.
Let's start with our primary purpose.
Our primary purpose
is for Misty and Sam to grow
their friendship
and maybe help
others. Just maybe.
You never know. Okay. The topic that I've chosen goes really well with our last episode.
Oh my goodness.
Which is wanting to avoid the void.
Tell me more.
So that place where you go inside and you get behind your belly button and you get quiet and you find out what's really going on and be willing to question, is it them or what is my body telling me? That quiet place that my head will say, good, thanks. My head will say, be quiet, like, or no, be busy, like, go, you need to do more things. Like, you don't have time to sit and listen and check in behind your belly. There's no time for that. You've got to run, scroll, shop, eat, all the things besides getting quiet and wanting to avoid the void.
Wow,
I'm sure you can't relate.
I can't relate.
Let me conjure something up.
I'm going to really try. Like, so many things just came into my brain as you were sharing, and it really relates to our last conversation a lot, in the sense of the busyness is because when I do find myself sitting still, stillness and silence are like the most difficult thing for me to do. And when I do actually sit still, my brain is so it's moving so fast that it keeps going, and that's, for me, that's the habitual pattern of thought, is anywhere but here, but when I do manage to get quiet enough, what usually comes up are some feelings, which I'd rather not, thanks very much. And I'll feel when I die, or, in early recovery, actually booked some time in my calendar to feel my feelings.
That's very Holly Hunter of you. She did that on broadcast news, where she would set aside a certain amount of time in her day to cry.
She did?
Yeah, it's so good. That movie.
Oh my God. No, I have a list, a short list. I would ask the people who I liked what their favorite sad cry movie was, and I had an ongoing list. The Beaches, The Notebook, Schindler's List. I mean, you name it, I had a list. So I would stock up, and there were DVDs back then, so I got all of them, and I would book my cry. Anyway, back to this void.
Amazing.
I've avoided the void. I think that that's where higher power, divine, all of that stuff happens. And I'm not used to having that space.
Mm-hmm. Yes. My experience, strength, and hope is that I avoid the void. And then when I do get quiet, it feels like I'm doing something wrong. That's what my brain tells me. Like, there's so many other things you need to be doing. We don't have time for this. And then when I do sit and get quiet, it does all the stuff that I've been ignoring starts to come up, and it scares me. And I feel like I need to leave my, whatever quiet position and run and do more things. And I found that whatever you resist persists. And the longer I avoid the void, the more it's going to show up in the outside world, where it levels me. So I don't have a choice. Or like physically. stuff will happen because I'm not, it's almost like I need a software update and I'm like, no, I got to keep doing work. I don't have time for a software update.
Wow. Oh, so much. It's like what I was just replacing was the void with feelings, the word feelings, because when I don't experience my feelings, when I don't sit still, when I don't do the meditation and I think that I just need to plow through, pedal to the metal, let's just get this done, that is counter. That makes sense to my brain to keep going, but it's counter to what my body needs physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and what happens for me when I don't honor that is, for feelings wise, it comes out sideways. I'll find myself getting angry at the Uber driver or the clerk at whatever, the barista, for some stupid thing that's absolutely nothing to do with anything. I'm on a short I'm kind of edgy, that way.
By the way, Los Angeles traffic gives so many opportunities when you're edgy to get even edgier. It's, such a joy.
Oh my goodness. So avoiding the void, I can relate. And so I guess, like, is there a specific example you have from this, like, past whatever, where you avoided the void or not avoided the void?
Yes, I got you. So it happened just last night where I had driven to Melrose area and I'm in Playa, so a million miles away. Yeah. And traffic and almost getting cut off and meters and worrying about is the time. Like, it was so stressful. And then I drove home around 3:00 and I was supposed to go back down to that area for a meeting at 7. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do it. And I started cleaning the house and like moving furniture and putting music on. And but that was the music and the dancing around my house and doing it, I was not avoiding the void. Like, I was with me, I was singing, I was having the most creative time. Like, I would just sit with a problem of a bookshelf and a lamp and a table and just sit there and like let my mind creatively figure out how we're going to make this happen. And I was having the best time with myself, and I kept thinking, I may or may not go to that meeting. I'll check in with myself later. And I ended up checking in, before around 6:30. And I was like, no, like, I'm staying here and seeing this through. And about 9 p.m. I had ramen and I just really felt back in my body. I felt behind the belly button. I felt grounded. I felt best friends with me again. I wasn't, like, this is what happens to me, is that I become surface misty and I don't realize how I go from this grounded behind the belly button misty to surface, and underneath all that is anger, and it'll just go out. And I don't really know necessarily when I go from one or the other, but if I don't do that grounding quiet, she just lives a life that gets me in a lot of toxic trouble.
Yeah.
What about you? Anything?
Well, even just as you were sharing, I was like, that is how I grew up. Like, we always showed a united front. I think my mother really leaned on the depressive side and was not medicated. And at the flip of a switch, she would decide she's not going to whatever family function was planned. And so she wasn't necessarily drinking, but she was Dr. Jekyll, Mrs. Hyde, basically. And so it was like all of a sudden, like, oh, she's having a mood. She's shutting her door. She's not coming. The rest of the family's there. Okay, just pretend everything's fine. and it was like, and so I'm really good at putting on that show and making, like to the outside, the actor we want everyone to see, is I think is what it says in our third step in the big book is, it's just like, yeah, I can present very well and not really share what's going on inside because I'm not aware. I'm too busy performing, and I think for me, a lot of the time, like yesterday, I would say I did my duties. I met with sponsees, I went to a meeting, I shared, I did all the stuff. And then if I really got quiet, it probably would have been to take a nap, But what I ended up doing was just like Netflix and chilling. And I did so in a loving way, but I also was aware that that's not necessarily what I need. It was like me reaching. It's like fingertips, when I went behind my belly button, it was be like, just take a nap, and it's weird because when I'm tired, I don't take a nap. Usually, when I am lonely, I isolate, it's like those weird kind of like,
Yes. Oh my God. One woman said it in a women's meeting that I went to one time that said, when I have $20 in the bank, I want to shop. When I feel lonely, I isolate. When I feel too fat, I eat.
yes.
And to me, that's that rebellious teenager within me. I also heard a girl say this morning in one of the meetings. It was so funny. She said that she has FOMO and she'll be scrolling at 2 a.m. because she doesn't want to miss the party. She's like, just the party with me myself. Like I don't want to miss out on like the next best TikTok that's going to make me feel good,
Yeah. It's a little insane, that kind of logic,
Yes, which might be why we're here.
Might be just a little bit, maybe. Like I found myself going home after a meeting instead of going to fellowship and eating with everyone, and then just coming home and eating alone. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what am I doing? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
I think it's like I'm comfortable isolating, and it's not in solitude, it's isolation, and then I rebrand it in my brain as decompressing, but it's really not decompressing, it's isolation.
I completely relate. And for me in that scenario, and I'm not saying this for you, but for me in that scenario, I can see that it's almost like that showbiz thing that's like always leave them wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go to dinner and I say something wrong, or I have to have an intimate moment, or I have to be vulnerable, like I can just cut it off here and you guys leave with a great impression of me and I get to go home and I don't have to worry about if I stayed too long or said the wrong thing.
Wow, that's for me. Yes, it's the deeper. I totally get that. Leave them wanting more. Totally. And it's for me, it's the vulnerability.
Tell me more. Tell me.
Because sitting in a meeting, listening to people, sharing, nodding your head, reaching out to a newcomer, it's very, for me, has become very rote. There's not a deep, it's surface.
Exactly. Yeah. We're on the same page. Exactly. Yeah. But if I have to, just like, I didn't have to. I spoke at a meeting this week and I got there and it was a very small, intimate meeting with maybe 20 people sitting down in a chair. Okay, Misty does not do her best work in that environment. Misty needs a podium, a spotlight, a microphone, 400 people.
Yeah.
Because then I get out of my body and God takes over and you're going to get the most amazing share ever.
Yes.
But when there's 24 people and I'm sitting down, it's too intimate. It's too vulnerable. I'm too conscious of everybody's look on their face and reading into it. Where did they love me? I really identify. Yes. Well, give me a stadium, please.
Totally. And I guess to your point, like there is, if I really think about it, I guess there is, it's not as vulnerable, right? Because it's a sea of people.
Right.
And it's not as exposed. It's so curious, huh?
Yeah, the showmanship can take over.
Yeah.
Call you sponsor. Call you sponsor. Call you sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.